Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. Will you do us a favor and stop sharing your screen? That way,
Yeah.
when we get some questions, we can see. Then you'll be in the big box there. All
Yeah.
right, perfect. Thank you so much. Well, my head is spinning with lots of questions, but I see some questions in the chat. So let's see. Okay, so people want to know, how can individuals support your inspirational goals and 3 Mounds chocolate or cocoa? Sorry.
What I mean is, how can they support us really? Buying our organic beans from October, supporting the community with any shape or form, in terms of if they feel that there are help that they give from a training perspective or from a NGO perspective, how we can help the communities more, open to that. We're really open to find people that are aligned with our values, and amazing people really. I've got an amazing group of people and we want to have more.
So become a buyer of the beans.
Become a buyer of the beans.
And then if you have any experience, knowledge that you can share, so
Absolutely.
your sweat equity, those things that you can
absolutely take on.
All right. Okay, how many types of cocoa do you produce?
Types of cocoa. So we only have in that area, the hybrid, the Forastero, and the Trinitario. I am told that there's Creole over there, but I have not seen it, so I want to see it for myself on there. So there are virtually, I think apart from just one, which I have not seen, there's every type of cocoa beans there. What we're doing is, which is great with the bio, is that because we're mapping each farmer, we can tell you what type of beans, how much the grain, where it's from, where it's located on a map for any prospective buyer, which is great. And also, we're planning not to mix the beans, apart from if you have smallholder farmers that you have to mix. But again, you will see both names on the bag showing you where the type of beans, where it's from, and the farmers. So it's going very granular and with a lot of detail coming from it, which is key. So if there's any problems, we can identify it. And if a buyer wants to have repeat purchase, they can go back to the same farmer, or they can sample other farmers' beans, which we already do. So when we do samples, we get a range of beans from different type of farmers and then produce chocolate from it. And from the one region, you have lots of different flavors, which is great.
Wow, that excites me for sure. Let's see. Are there ways to support the project through ecotourism at this point?
Yes, there is. Absolutely. So there is a place that I stay, which is in the village as well, which is comfortable. It's you know, we have ways in which we manage and they rent out the rooms. And so if you come to visit, I've stayed there myself for 2.5 weeks and I loved it. It's actually, it's a good stress buster, I'll put it that, because you can trek through. We can support in terms of getting you to the location, getting you to spend time in the villages, and they speak amazing English. So I mean, it's easy, and we can do it now. So when is interested in visiting, we can certainly put arrangements in place for them to spend some time there. You're spending time in the bush, so it's not like camping style, but in the day you can really trek around 8 communities and trek into the forest reserve as well. And if you're a bird watcher, it's amazing, really. And there's monkeys further down in the forest reserve as well.
Wow, wonderful. I have there's some more questions, but I have a question about, are you finding an obstacle or a challenge to have there been, is it a challenge to, I don't know, is the mindset of some of the farmers that the way that they have been taught this way that, cheaper, faster pesticide, herbicide is the way to sustain their livelihood. And if you take that away, then has that been a challenge?
Totally. So we have some farmers that are part of the union, signed members, but they refuse to comply to the strict codes of organic. So, because they want to see a proof in us buying the beans for the premium price and then bringing the money back to the communities. So, one thing which is with organic farming is that it is very expensive to start with, and it takes a lot of financial, and we've supported this ourselves to get it financially started. And so the next stage really is, how do I manage to bring in more investment for it and make sure we have buyers for the beans that will be available? Then you're then showing the villagers that here's the proof, because for 67 years plus, they farmed in this way, and it doesn't matter what the quality is. Cocoa Board has purchased it and sent it out. Now what we're trying to get them to do, really refine what they're doing, really be very specific. It's targeted as to what the quality they want them to deliver. So what they want to make sure is all the hard work that they're putting in, the rewards is there for them. And so they've seen how much time we're spending there. And yes, they're part of the union, so they're happy for their kids, for the sort of inputs that we're getting from them, because they've never received so much support from Cocoa Board ever until now. So they're already seeing that the intervention is actually working, because they've got training on the ground, they've got support, people are visiting their farm, showcasing how they should farm better, and they're getting organic inputs. Can you imagine? They're receiving organic inputs, whereby they struggle to receive conventional inputs. And so for the farmers, they're like, okay, this is great, but now can you get us the premium that we require? And so that's the challenge for me to deliver and our team to go and deliver, because now we need to sell the beans to the market and bring in additional support for education and the forest reserve and protecting that. So there has been that challenge and that battle, but we're working towards it. And we've got, let's say 90% of the community is already there, backing it. And the main thing is that the leaders in the villages, the chiefs, the official leaders, the empowered group have given their full backing to the support. Some village chiefs have even banned weedicide in their whole community, which is huge. And so the downside for us was, they had electric sort of powered slashers to use instead of weeding with their hands. And with the petrol prices, that's a glitch and a bit of a hit. So, okay, how do we support that better? But for me, in the spending time with the community, which really changed my perception of things, a greater understanding of how they live, which is not about me trying to come there to really westernize them in any shape or form, but really understanding the community, being respectful of their community and how they live, and just giving them the tools to be able to deliver better. So, using cars in the community, I can have a bike or a quad, and I'll get around a lot quicker than using a car in the whole community. And simple things, you watch how they travel, how they cook, that most of them are vegans without even knowing that, they're vegan, because they only consume meat if there is a funeral, if there's something. They do not touch any of their livestock. So you're looking at that, and even eggs, like basic egg, it's like a premium cook, like that is premium. To have egg is like once in a blue moon. But there's chickens that are the organic chickens running around. They only take that. It's a bank for them. It's a total bank. That's their bank, because if they're in trouble, they go and sell this. And so how do we help them to really change that mindset? And so it's slowly, and I've got the most amazing people on the ground to be able to help, convey that message across and see how best we could support the community.
Great, thank you for that. Okay, I see Dr. 𝗟𝗍𝗍𝗶𝗲. I had some questions I was thinking about him, so I'm glad to see he's got his hand up, and I'll
Right.
save my questions, and I'm going to invite Dr. 𝗟𝗏𝗊 to speak. Dr. 𝗟𝗏𝗊, can you come on in and open your mic and ask your questions?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can
Yes,
hear
sir.
you.
Oh, first of all, I want to congratulate you for your big effort, which is very, very interesting. And in this regard, I have a couple of questions. It was like a couple of years ago that President Akufo-Addo decided to not sell any more cacao seeds to Switzerland. And I would like to know if after that statement, he has done something in order to help initiatives like yours, some policies to help you to see if there's any alternative that will benefit directly to the producers. And the other question that I have is related with how to overcome the situation that has happened a couple of years ago when Ghana and Ivory Coast agreed with some of the major companies of chocolate to pay a $400 extra, and then the companies decided to not do it, and they end up buying the seeds in Mexico, in Ecuador, in Peru. So do you have in your scope this kind of bottlenecks that obviously it will occur as soon as they see that you are becoming independent? That's the question.
Okay, so thank you very much for the question and for your kind comments as well. So in terms of the president's comment in terms of not selling any more beans to Switzerland, that has not, though that comment was made, that hasn't happened. Beans are still sold to Switzerland, they're still exported. I think it was actually a year and a half when that comment was made before it came out, or a year. The aspiration is to get more processing done in Ghana, but there are challenges. There are a number of challenges, which are, to produce chocolate in Ghana, they don't have a dairy farm, dairy farm there to produce milk. Sugar has to be imported in. And they have power issues as well on there. So there are companies that produce semi-finished products, which are then exported out. I think if I was looking at that, we're not, you have some new companies that are trying to produce bars of chocolate to export it out. But then will consumers want to purchase, are they ready for purchasing beans or purchasing bars of chocolate made in Africa and exported out? I'm not sure. But one thing is for sure is that the government is not focused on organic cocoa. They're focused on bulk cocoa, is in terms of just large volume, is not really on what we are doing, but what they're looking at, and the help that's coming from Cocoa Board is they're looking at this model to see how we deliver this model, whether this model is effective or not. But also a huge part, which is different, is the level of details that we're trying to go in terms of not mixing the beans and really understanding flavors, really breaking down the great work that farmers are already doing. Because here's the thing, if you're a farmer that you don't spend much time in drying and you go and sell the beans, they take it. If you're a farmer that produced the most amazing beans, it's still mixed together. And so what we're trying to do different is that to really have premium quality beans to the market, working with Cocoa Board, working alongside them, and focus on having off-takers that will buy the beans. And so we market the beans ourselves, and make sure that we, our buyers receive the beans that we have purchased in the villages through cocoa board to our suppliers. And so the question in our say is that there isn't support coming from the government as yet for this project, but the little that we take, we get from them, we take, and then we are supporting this ourselves. We finance this ourselves all the way through until date, and there hasn't been that support from the government as yet. Secondly, in terms of the $400 premium that was put on top, the farmers are receiving this, and they did, especially in our area, the group that we're working with, they received it last year. But here's the thing, they received that last year, costs have gone up, farmers are then still struggling because it hasn't made that much of a huge, it made a difference to farmers because they saw what they did with that money in terms of putting their kids into school, supporting more sort of harvesting of cocoa and growing more. Our premium really, and the conversation I had with the village chiefs, is just not to put money into just the pockets of the large people with huge farms. It's for them to really invest back into the community with infrastructure that will help the generations that they haven't been born as well. So they'll have a balance between receiving more premium, but an additional premium will go towards infrastructure in the communities, which will help them further than just paying a premium or just receiving the 400 quota, because that 400 quota, the difference is that it goes through the government. So by the time they receive it, they're receiving just a fraction of that, whereby this, we envisage the farmers receiving an ample amount, and they'll make decisions as to how much of the premium that they take and is given to the farmers and how much goes towards cooperative infrastructure. There's a difference there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we have lots of questions in the chat. The next question we have is, how do you control pests and diseases using organic methods? And what is the difference in productivity levels, organic versus conventional? So
there are risks if the farmers do not prune and really open their canopies up to get the humidity out. So what we're doing is that we have got pruning groups on the ground. We've got Isaac, and that's part of the visit to the farms with 𝗪𝗿𝗍𝗍 to actually look at how he's pruning his farm to make sure that if you don't open the canopy to get fresh air through, that's where you get the diseases starting to then build up. So pruning is paramount, is key, and that means that we have more people on the ground working with the farmers and giving them adequate training, which they don't currently have because they use, weedicide and pesticide, and it doesn't eradicate it because they just come back even stronger. So they're always just buying more chemicals to use. So we're training them to farm better. Yes, there are yield differences in them, but what we're doing is hand pollination as well. We're still hand pollination, which will help to pollinate the pods. But as they move towards organic, it means that, and as they stop using weedicides and stop using pesticide, they'll get more bees and more natural pollination coming through because they're on the forest reserve. And one thing that you can imagine, they're at the point of the forest reserve. There's not a single person or anywhere that you can get honey from, which I could not believe it. And so what's the reason? It's because historically they were just spraying, it's killing everything in sight. So we're changing that. And then one thing which we're trying to work on is to be able to pollinate bees and honey, which to get bee pollination, and then cultivate honey, which will be another form of income for the women and the males in the community on there in terms of us working with.
Okay, let's see.
I'm trying to search which question to send.
No, I'm trying to see the name, the full, in the chat, it doesn't show me the full name of the person. So I'm looking for the name because this person is asked the same, no, they asked a different question. I'm gonna ask, okay, Jacqueline from Canada, would you like to come open your mic and ask your question?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I didn't know I could do that. Okay, great. It was a long question, a great presentation, Leslie. Thank you so much. So we were looking at purchasing, and we communicated with the ministry in Jamaica. We are manufacturing a chocolate tea, which is something we grew up from in Jamaica. And
Right.
But organic was put on the back burner because they could not guarantee that pesticide and any chemicals from adjacent farms were not going to bleed into the farms that they controlled for the ministry and the co-ops. Is there a way that you're, like, I mean, Three Mountains Farm, it sounds, you're thousands of acres and so forth, but how do you make sure that your area stays organic? And if there are farmers that are close by that are not in conjunction with the way you produce, that it doesn't bleed into your area, how do you control that?
Right. So, with the whole community and the zone, the whole area that we're in, all their fertilizers that they're receiving is all organic. They cannot use, because Cocoa Board provides that, so they cannot use non-conventional fertilizers or pesticide there. The biggest issue that you face is farmers that want to use weedicide to spray, and that is the problem. And so what we've got is that because we're doing polygon mapping of each and every single member and farm in the community, we can identify and know the farmers who are not compliant and the farmers that comply. And also within the community, as the cooperative group, they're there to support each other. So if there is a farmer that's using banned contraband, should we say, Isaac and the guys on the ground are then noted in that. So we can mark on the bio for the farmer if there's issues with the farm, with the farm next door to this other farmer. So we're able to separate farms that don't meet the criteria and farmers that do. We're also able to have a buffer along the line. So if there's a farm, for instance, that there's 10 acres and then there's a farm next to it that we know that the farmer keeps using either side, we'll have a buffer in between. But what we'll make sure is those beans will not be part of the organic beans, but the farmer will still receive the premium, because we can then sell the beans back to Cocoa Board as conventional beans on there. But it's absolutely our target in the next year to make sure that everybody within the organic group meets that target. And this is just a matter of time, because once we are able to sell the first beans, we know that the farmers will come on board because they're already part of the union, and the support is going to go across the whole zone. Also, because we're backed up to the forest reserve, we know at the end of the forest reserve, that there's no issue there, and it's like a V shape. So there's one road in and it splits into two, and it's one bulk area. So it's easy for us to map outside of that zone. And also working with Cocoa Board means that we've got the data from Cocoa Board and our own data on the ground to be able to identify if there's any issues and manage that. I mean, there's an area that area produces about 3,000 tons of cocoa. In our first year, we're looking at selling around 500 tons, metric tons of beans. So we know the scaling up will take time for us to make sure that we can achieve that for the whole group. And I mean, for a farmer who receives around 50 cedis per bag, I do not envisage us having a problem. The problem that we're going to have is trying to control other farmers trying to bring in cocoa from other areas, which is why being part of the value chain from having our own PCs buying cocoa on the ground means that we're able to manage and support that system very, very tightly. And also, it's something that we're looking to do is to have a digital sort of card whereby whenever anyone comes to sort of buy or sell their beans, we're able to identify who they are fully. And if there's any problem as well with that beans, we can identify it back because each bag will be tagged and we'll see where the problem lies.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's see. I think that you may have sort of hit on the answer to this question in the answer that you just gave, but someone would like to know how you keep the farmers' spirits up over the 3-year conversion period during which smallholders cannot sell their product as organic.
Okay, so there's a change that happens there is that to keep their spirit up. Okay, this is interesting there. So in terms of speaking, so we had a buffer because obviously in the year that they received the lid price, that was the buffer because they received additional income through the lid price that was set on there. And then what we've then done is we've worked with the communities for them to be able to see the vision and to understand what we're trying to deliver long-term for them. Worked with the community's leaders who are hugely influential and powerful because if they say this is what we're going to do in our community, everyone's going to follow suit. Where we have the gap is that we haven't had the whole 2,200 farmers will not make or will not achieve organic certification. And some people are like, they don't want to know because they can't afford to weed their farm with their hands on there or do it themselves. So they'll go and use weedicide. But it is essential that this year, for instance, that we have proof of model in terms of selling and buying the first organic beans from the village, because if we don't, then we'll have the issue of this model is not working and they spend all their time, and so it's not going to go to vain. I don't know, I've been quite lucky in terms of building that strong relationship and understanding with the farmers. And last year, the rains, they had issue with the rain, so the rainfall was less, and they did not produce that much cocoa. And so lean season beans is what's coming out now. And so where the farmers did not earn much at all, so to have the opportunity to earn more money in the main season from October is a huge coup for them. And so the farmers are working really, really hard towards the organic certification. And really is for us to then purchase the beans from them.
Okay, let's see. Okay. All right, Mrs. Balu has a question. Mrs. Balu, do you want to come in and ask your question, or shall I read it?
Yeah, I can ask the question. Okay.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Hi, Leslie. The question I said was, when you put the conventional method of putting all the pesticides and fertilizers, I hear that is the biggest cost of farming because you spend so much money and keep on adding fertilizer, and also in the end, the soil starts eroding and then you don't have the production after 5 years, 10 years, or whatever the crop cycle. So when you convert to organic, I know initially there's going to be a little bit less productivity because the soil is adjusting itself, the plant is trying to learn itself, not dependent on the other fertilizers. So have you done any financial analysis to see how does that play with that? Like the reduced cost compensates for the reduced production, or still they have to be negative thing, or how does it work?
Okay, so what we haven't done is we've looked at sort of, because this will be the first harvest that we're going to have, which will be organic beans. So which us having our bio and having history of what each farmer were producing this year is where we're going to see whether or not there's a huge difference. But then I say this is that with the organic premium and what we're doing with the farmers, it means that hand pollination, we're helping them to pollinate more as well. So we don't envisage them having a huge reduction in harvest, but with the organic premium that they're going to receive, means that they'll receive more, definitely, than what they'll receive with conventional cocoa. So it's up to us to make sure that the marketing of the premium beans and the sales of it is delivered. If we don't, then we have a problem, because those beans will go on as conventional beans and the farmers will not receive any premium at all. And so it's for us to make sure that we sell the volume of beans that we receive as organic, but overall, because of the premium, the levy on organic premium, there is a huge difference between conventional and premium organic cocoa. In all the research and working with Cocoa Board, there are 2 competitors that are there who have converted to organic. There's never been a problem of converting to organic and the farmers receiving less premium if the beans are sold, even with a reduction of harvest, because the bags. Also, there's another difference, and what we're doing, the difference that because we're in the value chain all the way through, from actually purchasing the beans and actually right up to export, we can give back the premium that usually the PCs will take from the farmers, and that money can go back to the community direct. So we're supporting not just the farmers, we're supporting the community as well. So they're actually, with organic farming, they're getting a lot more, because it's just not, we're not supporting them just with farming only, we're supporting them with imports, we're supporting them reducing their costs that they will normally their overheads would be a lot more, because they'll be going around buying, we decide they'll buy non-conventional chemicals just to help them. And most of the time, it just defeats the object, because they don't have more volumes. They then tend to have, like, the farms are just destroyed, the land is destroyed themselves in there. And this way, we know that they will not, their overhead is going to reduce. So overall, I am more than confident that the farmers will benefit a hell of a lot more, even with a small reduction in terms of harvest to conventional.
Thank you for that. Yes, yes, thank you. I had a thought when you were giving your presentation about infrastructure, and I learned about the infrastructure in Ghana and the roads and how hard it is to get things in and out. But my thought was, they don't have trouble getting the herbicides and pesticides there to do this.
No.
You know,
No.
what we're calling conventional farming, but really what you're trying to go back to is really the original way of farming.
Absolutely.
But interesting that we have this mindset that the infrastructure is the problem. We can't, it's not feasible.
And I mean, they advertise it, and they're able to get through and sell, and they give it to the sort of sellers and wholesalers, give it to the villagers, give it to them to use, and then they're able to then turn up and purchase it. And it's just bad. Like, they don't even, some of them can't even read what they're using. So they're just spraying because, there's a picture on it that says you're going to have a lot more pods, and it doesn't happen. And they can't even afford it. And they have this system of borrowing money. And so they sell their beans, their harvest in advance to receive money. And so what happens is that they're in debt continuously, and the chemicals are not delivering for them. And so our intervention, for some people, they don't want it, because the farmers are not going to go into debt. Their intention is not to sell your beans in advance, and then you can't then harvest. And then what do? Then you're struggling. And so that change in being a value chain will help the farmers. And we're on the ground, which is a huge, huge difference in that. I mean, there's never my intention to spend this much time, but I've been spending quite a lot of time on the ground to learn, which is a plus, which means that we're able to help them further.
Okay, we have a question from Clifford. Would like to know, are you implementing testing to actually identify contaminating weedicides in the beans?
Great one. So as part of our organic certification on there to achieve this and that, the beans will be tested. The farmers that meet those the farmers, when it comes to purchasing, there's a unique code for each farmer, which will identify where it's coming from. It is my intention at some point to have a lab at the farm, to test for flavor, to test for chemicals, and to have the farmers themselves being involved in this. And so where we're looking to position our head office and warehouse in the communities is to have this lab produced there, which means that firsthand, farmers can taste bars made from their beans. We can test first at real hands if there's any problems with the beans, and that takes time to model this, and obviously the necessary help to get there. And this is where bringing in more people to help to deliver this project is where it's going to be beneficial, because one thing which we've got is the advantage is that we've got a community that are very engaged, that are very willing, and so it's for me to go out and really, the rest of the guys in Three Mountains, to really bring in the necessary support and help to deliver the project long term and leave something behind for them to be able to work on it themselves long term, because the plan one day is to have a product coming from there of our own, which is organic. So,
well, I definitely look forward to that so that I can eat it. So if someone wanted to come visit and, take advantage of the ecotourism, do you have a way they can contact you, or any information about the tours or the ecotourism?
the intent is to have ecotourism. I mean, what we can do, because we've got Isaac, we've got the guys on the ground, we can definitely accommodate anybody to be able to stay in an area on there. Is in a remote area, so it takes around 6 hours drive from the city to get there.
On motorbike, right?
No, by car.
Oh, okay.
No, and then, or you can fly to Kumasi, and then it takes another 2 hours to get to the village. And so, we can definitely help and support. And if I am there, a big plus, because then the person can spend some time with me across the community. We generally use bikes to move around, and so we can definitely support anyone that wants to visit. It isn't mapped out, but they can get a very raw experience of what happens on a daily basis. And Isaac is there all the time, and I'm sure the community will welcome people with open hands. It is you're going back to be able to, it is a remote area, so you have to used to living in I mean, you've got nice beds, nice accommodation where we are, but the infrastructure is not westernized. But like I said, it's great to be able, if you want to be able to be with nature, it's perfect. I mean, it's amazing.
So it sounds like you're willing to receive guests, but you don't have, your ecotourism part is not fully set up.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not
And
yet.
anybody that wants to come visit has to be prepared that possibly for a week there'll be no electricity, as you mentioned that.
Yeah, and that happened with myself, and so, but power banks, absolutely, I carry that power banks with me, and I actually charge a few people's phone in the village when I got there, and solar panel, which was rechargeable. So yeah, and we could support with equipment, what's needed, what the person needs to bring, really, and give them enough information. If they happen to be in Ghana and they're on holiday, it's great to go there for 2-3 days and see the area, and then come back to the city, so you can get a real balance.
Great. Okay, we have a question. How much is premium cocoa beans in the world market? Wow.
Good question. So this it depends. So the premium really starts from around 3,500 per ton to around the $5,500 per ton. The range is huge. Not from West Africa, but you're looking at this is in the world. So the range is enormous, because South American beans will go for a different price to what West African bean will go to a different price. But a lot of it is dependent on obviously the marketing of these beans, where people are more the preference in terms of sort of region that people want to buy. So it really ranges to what the buyer wants. But the minimum you're looking for premium is around $3,500 per ton. But you know, we talk about helping communities and helping farmers and really paying more for chocolate and paying more for our bars. Here's an opportunity for some buyers to really, yeah.
Okay, great. I would like to invite, let's see, Nuruddin, would you like to come and ask your question? Dr. Nuru is traveling with students to Ghana.
Oh.
Let me see. I think I need to go here and allow. There.
Traveling now or planning to travel? Oh, okay.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Yeah, great. This is just fantastic. Thank you so much for this presentation. I take students to Ghana every year. We've been doing it for about 20 years now. We go all the way to Kumasi, Tamale, and all over Ghana. We're leaving on the 26th of May, taking about 14 students, and we'll be there till June 20th. So that last week, we'll be in the Kumasi area, all the way to Tamale. I love to bring my students to visit. How do we do that? I mean, we have transportation, we have accommodation in that area, and we know the area pretty well. So how do we do that?
Okay, so you said the 26th of May?
Yeah, we're leaving here on the 26th of May.
Okay.
So we'll be in Accra for a couple of days.
Yeah.
We spend most of the time in Cape Coast.
Okay.
But last week we're in Ghana. We'll be traveling up north to Kumasi, Tamale, and that whole area in the north. We'll be there for a week.
Okay. So you'll be traveling from Accra to Kumasi, right, on the road, by road. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that will be the perfect opportunity, is that the journey to Kumasi, you go past a village called a spot called 𝗬𝗄𝗆, and that 𝗬𝗄𝗆 stop is the turning to head down towards the village, which takes about an hour and 40 minutes off the rough road to get there.
Okay.
Now, you're traveling with a bus, right?
Yes, from Cape Coast all the way to Kumasi and to Tamale.
Okay, so you're gonna come through. Okay, so you're gonna come from a different. You're gonna come from a. You won't come through the Kumasi road. You're gonna come through the rough roads in. Okay. What we have to just try to make sure you can definitely visit is to make sure that I'll have to check to make sure that there's no rain during that period. Just because the roads can be quite rough, and as you're traveling with buses, we do an early morning trip, so it'll be advisable that we get you into the community around 7, 8 o'clock, because when the sun hits around 11, 12, it's going to be unbearable, especially if it's your first time. And with a group to be able to trek around, it's good to get in the morning. So we can definitely arrange that, and we can show you the community, show you some farms. Because it's going to be during June, May, June time, lean season will just be finishing then. But we can definitely accommodate, and you can spend a few hours there and then carry on your journey to Kumasi. Because would you want to stay overnight
It really depends. We can stay overnight. Is there a contact email address or something that I can contact you and we can work this out?
Yes, definitely. Well, we can pass that on after webinar. we share all the details, and then we can work that out, and then we can more than accommodate. I'm sure I'm going to be in Ghana at that point again, but if I'm not, there's a great team on the ground anyway, so we can certainly and make it fun actually, and get your trekking and boots on. I hope the guys like to climb a few mountains on there and people are fit, so we can then
these are students 20-something years old, so they should be fit. So thank you so much. This is fantastic.
Brilliant. We can definitely do this.
Okay. So I can see your email address right here.
Oh yeah.
@treemountaincocoa.com. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. Brilliant. It's gonna be fun, isn't it?
Yeah. It's what we like to do, make connections. Wonderful. Okay, let's see. Do we have more questions? Anybody'd like to come in and ask a question or give thanks or a comment? You can use the raise hand feature, and we'll open your mic. Everyone, anyone? I'm looking at my notes to see what questions I have. I have some questions, but it didn't come up, so I'm gonna keep.
So I see.
Well, I mean, we only have 9 minutes, and we can always stay a little longer if we want. But you know, I have this. And you tell me it just you don't want to talk about it if you don't want to talk about it.
No, please.
But you touched on this notion of child slavery, and through these webinars and all of the distinguished people that we've had here, and there really is sort of, I guess I'm just trying to understand it and figure it out. There's sort of multiple sides of the story, and I wonder, is it, you know, I have this thought, is it possibly that you know, we're trying to place a Western mindset on you know, a farming culture, and is it really child slavery, or is it a grandfather and a son and a son passing on tradition to the children, and we think they should be learning reading, writing, and arithmetic, but if they don't learn to farm the land and they don't learn to feed themselves. So I maybe you can.
Oh no, totally. So look,
you can expand on that.
Look, in the community that we're in and we're working with, I can firsthand tell you that there isn't any form of child slavery in that area. That's a fact. Secondly, I can also tell you that the farming communities that are there, the mothers, the fathers, don't want their kids to do farming. They want them to head out and go to the city and find other jobs. And so education is free in Ghana. And so attending school is something that all the kids do. Now here's the thing. The only reason why a child may not attend school and would need to go to the farm with the mother or the father on a day is because there's no one to look after them. So when they're going to the farm, they'll follow suit. Some also live on the farm. So they live on the farm. That's where they live. And there are issues whereby, for instance, circumstances that kids can't go to school because they haven't had their hair cut. And so because they haven't had their hair shaved or cut, they can't turn up to school. When I was there for 2 weeks on that, I had kids that couldn't go to school. So I was like, well, I've got shears. I know how to cut hair. I was cutting the kids' hair to then able to attend school the next day. That cost 1 cedis. Farmers cannot afford, which is less than a penny. Like they can't afford 1 cedis for the child to cut their hair, you know, to go to school. Uniform, they have to provide and pay for at times in there. And so for any farmer in the community who would turn around and say, my child should not go to school, which is free, to go and farm, no way. it's like another. Also, I have never seen in any community whereby, or any one of the communities I've walked around, seeing kids weeding or getting like being enslaved to actually this is their job in terms of farming. No, the farmers actually pay for farming groups to go and do this. What really the focus should be is educating the children, putting in working with the teachers to have incentives for them to educate and teach the children better. So for instance, one thing which I found challenging was teachers are placed in different areas, and some teachers, when they're placed in a community, that is not really their problem if a child turns up or doesn't turn up, because they're just spending their time there till they're placed in the next area. I told one of the assemblymen, this is a massive problem. We must find teachers that grew up in the community to come back to really help or incentivize the teachers to actually empower the children to teach them better and get them to go into higher education. There is a gap. There's a huge gap in that in a few years' time, you will have more people abandoning their farms as their parents pass away and not be interested in farming cocoa and farming altogether, because that's the problem. But in the community that we're in, we certainly do not have these issues that you see or hear on TV. It may happen in the borders between Ivory Coast and Ghana, or the top towards Burkina Faso and Mali, those areas there, but not in the area that we're currently working in. And it's part of our constitution, you know, children working or being, you know, enslaved. Put it this, it will never happen where I'm working, that's for sure, or the community that I'm working in. I can assure you that. And if there was any issue of that nature, it will be dealt with very quickly. And I mean, Isaac, I've got on the ground, is amazing. I mean, some of the people that I've got on the team, it took me over a year to convince them to come and actually work with us. And because of the values that we have are part of the reason why they're working with us. And so, and I've got Sophie and Christy, I mean, Sophie, advocate of fair trade, and you know, she hammers that home on a daily basis. My education of understanding cocoa has come from having just amazing people teaching me and making me understand the political issues very, very quickly. And also, I've got a great relationship with Cocoa Board to be able to identify things when things are going wrong. And so the main aspect of us is what can we do, how much support we can get there, and NGOs that we can work with to really shape this model and make it a model example for people to follow as the plan. And there's a vision that keeps opening and growing each time. So I'm looking forward to it, and really I hope that we can get more people to be interested in the Three Mountains being in the model and help us achieve the success that I think we're going to do.
Thank you. Thank you for addressing that. Well, with that model, I think that, you know, more young people, if they don't have to use deadly chemicals, you know, that I wouldn't want to, I'd probably want to flee and, you know, move to the city and do something as well. Because, so what you're doing, you know, will create a generations of livelihood and, you know, just a beautiful biodiverse ecosystem that, you know, includes everyone.
Absolutely. I mean, I want to have a product that I can say this amazing chocolate product with nothing in it. And you know, I'm an avid consumer. I buy organic products. I'm avid in superfood as well, and so it's something that I have a genuine interest in. And so, you know, we're going to do this. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Mrs. Balu, I see you have your hand raised. You know, you don't have to raise your hand. You can bust in.
No, I didn't want to interrupt the conversation. So, okay. So Leslie, on the education again, I have a small quick question. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people think about kids going to school and learning English and then other
Yeah.
things. But like you said, the average farmer's age is about 50 plus. And who is going to sustain the farming in the next 20 years, 30 years? If nobody wants to work in the farm, you can earn all the money in the city, but how do you eat? But you cannot eat the money, you need the food. So when you have the schools in these villages and the agricultural communities, are they also teaching the traditional knowledge that the farmers knew for ages to the next generation? In addition to math and everything, they also need to have the practical skills, because not everybody is cut out to excel in academics, right? Some kids are good in something. That's
Yeah.
why, this standardized education, does it work, or do they also try to pass on the traditional language, traditional knowledge, and local farming communities? Like, you can go to like agricultural university and study agriculture, but that's a generalized one. It doesn't, fit into the local system, because each local system is different, each local crop is different. So what is your,
This is a great question, by the way. Really, really good. So a lot of the official language in Ghana is actually English, and then obviously you have the local dialects in each area. And in the community that we're in, there are 3 or 4 different languages spoken in that area. Farming, in terms of training as part of their curriculum, is not part of it. It's definitely not, because the teachers, the parents that are sending the school, or that are sending kids to school, want the kids to actually learn English and go and get other jobs, not farming. The only reason where they are helping with the farms, or they're on their farm, is once they get past JSS, the children are getting sent to, especially the males, they're going to universities. Some come back because if their parents get ill or unwell, then they come back to the communities, and you find them. They're the most educated guys, just there because of their parent and helping out. And what happens is that they fall into a system whereby they'll try to earn money from cocoa, but they can't, and it's usually males that are there. And then you then tend to have well-educated guys sitting around with nothing to do. Once the season is over, they're just there. They get into boredom. They're just bored. And so my take on this is how do we educate the women, the young girls in the community with sexual education, for them to better not to have children early, to manage that more? Because what happens is that the men out there, the women have like 5, 6, 7 kids. We have like girls getting pregnant around 16, 17, and then they just have more children. And so as they have more kids, they can't manage. They can't manage to be able to look after the kids, and then that becomes a problem. And so, with what we're doing now is we are training the farmers in the cooperative. We're training happening this week actually, where we're training the executives for them to understand the business of cooperative and how the cooperative can work for them in terms of earning money and having a lively income. So at a point, I expect the executives to be teaching other farmers in terms of, if you produce organic cocoa, follow the processes and the training that we're putting into place, they get more yield, they're able to look after their family, they're able to have other crops that they're able to grow, to sell to the city. And so showing them that they can earn good amounts of money farming in the lands they're in. And actually organic crops has got a premium, which the farmers are then starting to learn. So as we educate them more, they'll start to see that there's value in this business. I mean, otherwise, if they're just farming conventional cocoa, I can assure you in the next 5, even less than that, 5, 6 years from now, that model, as it changes, people will abandon it. They'll just abandon farming altogether. And there are easier ways for them to actually, deforest land and go and sell wood and take that and take that to go and earn small amounts of money. And also in that area whereby they're deprived, people only want a small amount of money and then they won't do anything else. So unless there's intervention, other than farming, other than cocoa farming as well, we're going to have a community deprived even more, and we'll have more abundant farms and children leaving and not farming at all. I can see that. I can even see some of the young men. The only reason why they're getting involved is they're asking the question is, are you sure there's money in cocoa? Because they're watching me and they're trying to think, is this true? But also is that nobody's ever shown them anything different in that community. And so the proof is going to be on us delivering, really. And I think that that will show in the years ahead for this community.
Okay, we're a little past the top of the hour. So if you'll indulge, Leslie, I'm gonna just do this one last question. Is that okay,
Okay.
Mrs. Balu?
Yeah.
One last question? Okay. Because I think it's a good question and important to get the word out. So are you also working to train others to start separate cooperatives in Ghana or Ivory Coast?
It is my absolute vision now to go into other communities in Ghana, not just in Ghana. I intend to go to other areas in Africa. I've actually made a list of places that I want to go and help and work with and really model this out in other areas. And so if they will have me and if you've got the right backing, I'll definitely love to try. And that is the plan, is to model this out and have a 4th and a 5th and a 6th mountain somewhere else.
Wonderful. I'm inspired, grateful. I wish you such great success with what you're doing. I hope that it becomes contagious, infectious, and everyone wants to follow this model. I think the future of, the future of the planet depends on it, really.
Well, thank you so much for having me as well. It's just for having me for the second time. It's been absolutely just a pleasure and humbling, really, for you to have me on this. I wasn't expecting this at all, and so I am most grateful for you to even welcome me. I've only just started in the cocoa industry on there, so I'm learning. I'm a student all the time, and really, whatever I can do to shape and change these wonderful people's lives, I will absolutely do. And I look forward to seeing Three Mountains beans out in the shop on a product at some point in the very, very near future. We already have people using our beans for local consumption, so definitely something the world will be. And so hopefully somebody will be the first person to have organic Three Mountains beans on their product.
Wonderful. And they can find you through your website. If somebody wants to be that first person, how do they connect with you?
Totally, through the website. We'll shared my email as well. I'll share the presentation as well, whereby there's a QR code on there, which has got which they can scan and connect with myself on there, and obviously they can email you guys to share my details. Absolutely on there. And I'm in the UK now for the next 4 weeks, so available. And before I head back again, spending my time between both and traveling around the world to sell this amazing product.
Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Balu, you want to wrap us up?
Yes. Thank you so much, Leslie. It's so inspiring when you see that 110-year-old woman, still active and farming. That gives us the energy to keep going what you're doing.
We can get close to it. Totally.
Yeah. When we do this, I just wish the whole world becomes going back to roots, what they call, right? Because before the industrial revolution, people were having organic farming. Only the industrial revolution introduced these fertilizers and chemicals. So now we are going back to make the land more fertile and back to its nature. So all the, like you said, the biodiversity, everything, every living being can benefit from it.
Yeah.
So we are glad to be part of this small initiative. So I think your story, what we are, envisioning is your story inspires a lot more people in their countries to do the same revolution and make a change for everybody, not just us, for our children and our grandchildren, our generations to come. So thank you, and thank you all the participants, because without you participants, this webinar doesn't have any meaning. So thank you for actively participating, and we are really blessed to have presenters like Leslie spending their time and inspiring us, and all the participants coming and supporting us. Thank you all. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. So if you have any questions, please contact Coco Town. We'll be glad. Thank you all. Have a good rest of the day.
Leslie, thank you again so much.
Well, thank you all, guys. Thank you. See you soon.
Yeah, thank you all, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everyone behind the scenes to make this webinar successful. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay.